Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Arizona Coyotes franchise mode here in NHL 22. So in last episode we had the draft and the re-sign stage, and in today's episode we have free agency, and we're also going to start up the season, and we might make an off-season trade as well, just because we are going to be making a couple changes to our lineup this upcoming season with the amount of youth coming up from the system. Now before we get into that trade potentially and free agency and all that type of stuff, we do have a few comments to go over. So the first couple are from Jeff Brelinski. He says 85% only works during the season and before the re-sign phase. So in the future, try to get the 85% on them before or on draft day. Even after the draft works, but don't sim after the draft at all till you send your offers. So if we want to do the 85% trick, we'll have to do that after the draft or during the season, and apparently it doesn't actually work during the re-sign stage, which I didn't actually know. Also, Jeff says, I still say move Keller because Genther is a second liner now, and you need him to get into the top 6 to grow. Keller is the odd man out, plus his potential will become exact as soon as his next birthday. So, yeah, a lot of you guys are saying to probably move Clayton Keller. Some of you guys are saying not to move Clayton Keller and to hold on to him. So it's kind of like it's a bit divided in terms of what we do with Clayton Keller, but I think moving Clayton Keller does make a lot of sense, because if we take a look currently at our roster here in terms of forward core, basically how I have us situated, as I think our top line would be like Hayden, Agostino, and probably Zadina. Second line would be Farinacci, Shelley, not Scheller, what the heck am I saying? I combined the two of Keller and Shelley, but Shelley and probably Dylan Genther. And then third line would have like Goche, Ponomarov, and then we're going to be bringing in a player via the trade for our third line, with Kelly and Keller involved. And then Geeky, Tracy, and whoever we sign in free agency would make up the fourth line. And then defensive core would probably keep the same, which means that Schneider and Tukkanen will probably be back in the minors for another year. I don't want to rush Tukkanen because he's 19 years of age still, so we could wait maybe a little bit longer. And in goaltending wise, some of you guys were saying to bring in Wallstead and play Wallstead as the backup, like Dylan Burr said to do that. But I don't really know if we should, because obviously we do have two good goalies right now. We'd have to probably trade one away. I might just wait one more year just to see how Wallstead does in the minors, because he isn't really developing, which is kind of weird. So we might just wait 1 year, and then afterwards we could let Campbell go, and then we could try running a Lenefelt and Wallstead maybe for a season and seeing if Wallstead gets any development that way. So yeah, that's pretty much that. The next comment is from Hawksvan88. He says, I wouldn't go for anything too big. Just a solid third or fourth liner is all you really need to get. So, yeah, that's pretty much the plan, is after getting rid of Clayton Keller is to find some fourth liners and depth kind of options for this team. And like I said, we are going to be bringing in a third liner via the Keller trade, which I did scout out some good defensive players for our third line to try and give us a better chance of playing better defensively on that bottom 6. The next comment is from Mike Darbrand. He says, when you took Bykov, there was a prospect, McMuffin, you didn't take that your scouts had pinned. Please see how he turned out. If you can, during the draft, see if we missed any good players in the rounds, sim to next pick. So yeah, I think what he means basically is when basically once we draft any players, we need to take a look back at the previous round just to see if we actually missed any good players at all. So yeah, we'll try and remember to do that for next year's draft. But let's take a look at that McMuffin prospect that you are referring to, because I honestly know who he is. I don't think. But yeah, we'll take a look at how good this guy is, and I don't know where he went at all. So let's see, McMuffin. What a last name. And McMuffin went to the Vegas Golden Knights. He's a top 6 forward prospect, 66 at 18, so a pretty solid prospect. And he was a late first round pick. So there you go. And he's from like Hungary, I think that flag is. I'm not 100% sure of that, but it's kind of interesting. Interesting player. The next couple comments are from Pens Gaming 7. He says, I would sign two two-way forwards that specifically fit your penalty kill, along with an extra center for injury. Other than that, I would keep the roster intact, including Keller. So he's saying to keep Keller, but it's more, then he also kind of says, though, that it kind of makes sense, though, to move Genther up in a sense. So we are probably going to be getting rid of Keller, because I think he's the odd man out on this roster. And yeah, that's pretty much the comments from last episode. So let's get into some free agent signings first, and then we will make the trade. That way we could offer these guys some big contracts. So we do have a lot of cap space, so I'm going to be giving two guys a lot more money than they should be getting, but it's mainly just to get us close to the cap floor or a little bit above the cap floor. So we are going to go to free agents, and the two players or multiple players I'm going to sign. One of them is for a fourth line, and one of them is a solid defensive depth option. Because I was sorting by by defensive stats, because I want defensive forwards, because I think that's our main problem right now with this team. So if we go down here for the fourth line, I was looking at Noah Acciari at first. I might still get Acciari because it looks like he is going to fit our fourth line, which is perfect. The only thing is he's 33 and he's a depth forward, so we could honestly sign him as a depth option, which I'm not opposed to, instead of the actual fourth line spot. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sign him to a one-year deal and just give him a little bit more than he actually wants, just to kind of keep us close to the cap floor. And then also we are going to bring in, so Acciari would be a depth option. We could also bring in another player for the actual fourth line, which that player I was looking at is Joel Armia. He's an 81, he's a fourth liner, and it looks like he also fits our fourth line. So I think that's not a bad defensive depth option for that fourth line. Well, not depth option, but an actual fourth liner. And we'll give him also like a decent amount of money. We'll give him like $5 or $6 million just to get us closer to the cap floor. So that would be $8 million in contracts. So I should probably give the next player like $4 million, which he's not really warranted of $4 million, but he's a good defensive young guy, and we need to help out our bottom six, obviously. So the next player I wanted to sign is David Gustafsson. He's a low top 9. He's a 78 overall fourth liner. He didn't actually play any NHL games last season, which is kind of interesting, but he's a good AHLer. He has played sometime in the NHL. And as you can see, he's got like 84 defensive awareness, some good face-off stats, good shot blocking and stick checking for a forward. So I am going to sign him up, and we are going to give him a one-way deal, and we're just going to give him a decent amount of money. And yeah, hopefully he could be a good depth option for us in case we run into any injury problems on that fourth line, or we could actually play him in the roster, who knows. But we're going to give him like $5 million as well or so, which is a lot of money, but it's just to get us close to the cap floor because we do not want to run into any cap problems. And those are basically going to be our three signings. Now, the player we're going to be trading for in terms of the Clayton Keller trade, we are going to be trading Keller to Columbus, and we are going to be bringing back a good defensive center that actually plays there still in real life, so he's not an EA-generated guy, and that is Boone Jenner. Boone Jenner is signed for 1 year at $3.75, which is a solid contract. Obviously, his contract expires at the end of the year. And his defensive stats, he's got 4-star defense. But you look at his defensive awareness and stuff like that, he's got 87 defensive awareness, 83 face-offs, so he could win some draws. He's also got decent shot blocking and really good stick checking, and also some good physical stats. So he's going to be a really good bottom six player. And he also does potentially fit our third line, which is also good. So he's like the perfect option to bring in. Now, Clayton Keller's value is a lot better than, obviously, Boone Jenner's is. So we're going to have to take back some picks into this trade as well, just to make this a little bit more fair and see if that would work. They don't want to give up their first and seconds, which kind of sucks, but we could try and get a second regardless, just to see if this would work, because I think that would make sense, is Keller for Jenner in a second, so we get a future prospect in, probably not anything huge, but we do get a future prospect or a second round pick that we can honestly trade away if we want to try and move up in a draft eventually. And then we get Boone Jenner for 1 year, or we could just hold on to Boone Jenner long term. But I think that is a solid trade to make as well. So let's offer this trade. So Jenner in a second for Clayton Keller. And that's accepted. So perfect. That was actually exactly what I wanted. So that is a great trade. Obviously, it sucks to trade away a good player like Clayton Keller, but it does obviously get rid of that bad salary that he kind of had to an extent, because he wasn't really consistent. And it also gives us a better chance with our future prospects. Like Dylan Guenther now is going to get top 6 time, which hopefully should help him produce and develop into being that elite player, because right now he's still an 83 at 22. So I think that was a pretty good trade. Let me just make it sure we are good in terms of the RFAs, because I don't think, yeah, we don't have any of those. Now we just need to find out if those guys that we just offered contracts to are going to sign, and then we will sim up to next season. and we'll start simulating a little bit. We'll get our line situated and see how good this team looks for next season, but I'm hoping that this team is a little bit better defensively on that bottom six. So Achari's going to accept, so that's one of our depth options. Armia for the fourth line is going to accept as well. Gustafson's going to accept as a depth forward. And now we're just waiting on one more player, and that player... Wait, aren't we waiting on one more player? No, I think that actually was it. Yeah, that actually was it, I'm pretty sure. Right? Yeah, those are all the contracts I offered. Never mind. So let me just take a look at our roster and see if we're good. We have 22 million still in cap space, so we should probably sign somebody else to like a lucrative contract just to throw in the AHL. We do have one more contract space, but we do need somebody else that's going to be making a decent amount of money, or else we're not really at the cap floor, I don't think yet, if I'm not mistaken. So I might have to sign somebody to a big deal just for 1 year to play in the AHL or as a depth forward. They're actually not that much below the cap floor. Like, it looks like the cap floor is like $75 million maybe around, which means we should sign someone to like another $5 million or something like that, and then we'll be good. So let's take a look at some free agents and just sign another player for the AHL. They don't have to have a super good overall or rating. We'll just sign a center, sort this by overall, and try and find like a depth forward that could be used, and we could call him up at some point if we want to. So somebody that might actually fit our bottom six. That's terrible defensive stats. I want somebody with good defensive stats. Justin Almeida's 79 defensive stats ain't good. Paul Stastny. I'm not opposed to bringing in Paul Stastny, but he'd probably be playing in the AHL is the only problem. Carl Henriksen, solid defensive stats, but not fantastic. Good stick checking. And you know what? We'll just give this guy a contract. Why not? 1 year deal as well. And we'll give him a one-way deal, and we're just going to give him a good, decent amount of money just to get us to the cap floor. And he'll probably be let go of next offseason because he's just there to kind of fill the void with cap. So I think we need to sign him to like $4 million, and then we should be at the cap floor, which would be good because then we don't run into any of those contract problems like we did with Clayton Keller. So just let's see on Henriksen. Will he accept? He probably will. Yep, he does as well. And now we should be pretty good in terms of being at the actual cap floor this season. Let's see. Yeah, we're just a little bit above the cap floor, so it does give us room to work as well. So we are now perfectly set up going into next season. Let's simulate to next season, and then we're going to get our lineup set up and see what we could do in terms of a roster. But yeah, hopefully we have a good lineup, and hopefully there's some good chemistry with like Boone Jenner on that third line, because like I think he fits that third line. It was like 3 bars scouted, so should do pretty decently there. And hopefully he could like help out our penalty kill a little bit and whatnot if we can get him into the penalty kill unit. Let's go to scratch to see who's scratched currently. Henriksen scratched. I don't want Achari in the lineup, so I need to get Braden Tracy in instead. And we will go something like that, which works. Ponomarev has jumped up to an 85. I don't know if it's just for the preseason, but hopefully it is just for the preseason because that's pretty nuts. In terms of everything else, though, I'd like to get... Is Genther the best fit on the top line? He's best fit on the second line. But apparently that gets rid of chemistry if I do that. Second liner. I think I'll just leave it like this. So then the second line would be Genther, Farinacci, and Shelley. Farinacci's jumped up to an 88. He's listed as a first liner, so that's kind of scary. So we got to get Farinacci a good amount of power play time or penalty kill time. Shelley's up to an 84. A lot of guys are developing way faster than I expected. Like Ponomarev, if he's actually like an 85, I don't think he is. Once we get to the start of the regular season, it might be a bit different, but it's pretty crazy. Geeky on that fourth line isn't that great either, but it is what it is for now. And the rest of that is fine. Defensively, looks good as well. Scratched-wise, I need to send down Henriksen, and I need to call up somebody from the minors. But I think our team looks actually pretty good overall-wise in terms of chemistry as well. Braden Schneider is technically NHL ready as well, so we do have a little bit of a problem there. But we will leave him and Tukinen down there for now. So I think that's good. We are getting a lot of development in the minors, which is kind of nuts. We are going to call up Gustafsson. And I will send down, in terms of the NHL, though, I will send down Henriksen for now. which is good. And then I think we just need a depth defenseman in the NHL. Did we have a depth defenseman or no? Because if we're going to use a depth defenseman, we don't really have one except for either Karate or Moser, which, I mean, I'm not opposed to using one of the two. I think I'd probably call up Moser, maybe. 85 defensive awareness, Karate, 82. Yeah, I think I'm going to call up Moser as a depth defenseman. And then everybody else in the defensive core in the AHL could actually play. Like, I would use Braden Schneider as depth, but I think it would give him some morale problems. So let's just go best lines in the AHL. So that is good. We have now Achari, Moser, and Gustafsson as our depth options. Let me check the special teams. Farinacci should be on the first unit. But where the heck is Shelley? Shelley needs to be on the power play. I don't know why they took Shelley off the power play. Or did they take Shelley off the power play? Yeah, they did. Damn, our power play unit has a lot of good players on them. So we'll move Shelley up, and we will try and move Geeky down. Yeah, we'll move Geeky down to the second unit. And yeah, Boone Jenner could also play center down there. Why not? Shelley needs to go to the wing. Hayton there. Farinacci at the point. Damn, our power play unit looks stacked. But yeah, that looks pretty good in terms of how it's set up. And then Hayton would go up to the top unit. Maybe Soderstrom would go down. I don't really know about the chemistry on the four-man. Doesn't really matter too much on that front. And then our Pellenkill unit, I think, looks pretty much fine on its own. Yeah, that should be fine. If we start losing morale to players, then we will start making some changes in our lineup, but that's good. Otherwise, Lawrence is going to be back in the minors for the season just because he wasn't really NHL ready when we played him last year. But he has some good line mates to play with, and this AHL team is really stacked. And we're getting close to having a lot of players getting NHL ready. We are going to take out Liam Kirk out of the lineup for another one of our prospects instead, and Arnsby. And just throw him in, and I don't think I could find a way to put in, who is this guy, Alberts. I need to get Ortmeyer in the lineup for sure, though, on the defensive core. Which means I got to take out probably going to be Karate because he's the oldest out of the bunch. So we will throw in Ortmeyer because Ortmeyer is a top prospect of ours technically because he does have an X factor. So I would like to get him into the lineup as much as I can. Let's go Tukinen on the first unit and take out Denisov. And throw in Ortmeyer on the power play unit. There we go, that's nice. We'll do this as well. And then I think that will pretty much sum up our lineup for the AHL. Yeah, that's pretty much good. Okay, perfect. So we are good to go on that front, and I think we're good to start up the season simulation. I think we'll probably only simulate a few months. Not too much, because obviously we do not want to sim too much, and then our team misses the playoffs or something. But we should be a pretty good team, I think, going into the season. So yeah, let's simulate, and then we'll take a look at the draft class at the end of this and stuff like that. And I don't know if we'll take a look at the trading block. I guess it depends on how we actually simulate in this first few months that we're going to do. I think we'll simulate to like December the 1st. But I think we should be a contending team to make the playoffs again this year, because obviously losing Keller hurts, but bringing in some good defensive options on that bottom six is going to help us out. So preseason-wise, we go 4-1-2, which is pretty solid. Who led us in points? It's going to be John Farinacci, not a surprise. Let me take a look at the contract situation. I'm just curious on who's up for renewal this year. So Agostino and Farinacci both need contracts, Ponomarev and Genther. So we have 4 expensive contracts coming this offseason. And then we have a bunch of UFAs as well. So yeah, we got a lot of RFAs to deal with this offseason, which should be interesting. And goalie-wise, Linefeld's going to need a new contract. Like I said, Wallstead might play as their backup next year, and we might let go of Jack Campbell. But that's pretty much that. But yeah, a lot of big off-season choices to make this coming season. With all those RFAs, at least we could sign a lot of them up long-term. But yeah, let's get this season simulated, or part of the season simulated, and see how we do. So we'll go to November the 1st to start off with. Chikrin was never injured. But let's see how we do in our first month of action. after making the playoffs for the first time in, well, not team history, but in a while, since 2012 or something like that. Campbell was never injured. We are not off to a great start. We won our first game of the season, but the next 3 games we played pretty bad defensively, and Hayton has been injured, which is a pretty big loss. So we'll just go replace player. And there's a couple games with points in a row, and we're now 3-3-1 after the first month, so not too bad. Currently, Chychrun has 11 points in 7 games. Jeez. Jacob Chychrun might end up winning the Norris at some point. That's pretty insane, though. 11 points in 7 games. Especially for a defenseman. So I guess we're a really good offensive team at the moment, or maybe he's just really good offensively, but hopefully we can start playing better defensively with those new additions. Let's go one more month, just because we do not want to simulate too much, and this episode is probably getting close to around the normal cutoff length. So Barrett Hayton is back. That's good news, because David Gustafsson was getting top line time. And Barrett Hayton back in. That's good. But yeah, hopefully we could get some more wins here. There's another win. Okay, we're playing good. That's what I like to see. And Soderstrom has fractured his jaw. That's a pretty big injury. It's not too long term, though. But yeah, that's a big loss on the defensive front. And Wallstedt has been injured in the minors, which kind of sucks because we do want to play him as our backup maybe next season. But this team is off to an incredible start right now. 12-4-2. JJ Moser has been injured as a depth option with an MCL sprain, really? So I have to call up another depth defenseman probably. He's out till Christmas 2025, huh? Let's just go replace player for now. Just because, yeah, Soderstrom should be back in the lineup anyways. Yeah, Soderstrom just got thrown back in, which is good. And 7-4 win, and last game of the month. Wallstedt is back as well for the AHL. That's good news, because Wallstedt is hopefully our future. He is up to a 79 now, which is good. He is getting close to being an actual backup goalie, but I don't know if he's going to become a low elite or an actual elite player. And the last game of the month was a win as well. So we're 14-5-2 to start the season. This is incredible to see how good this team is already. And we're at 30 points at the season. We're almost first in our division, which is pretty nuts. And Jacob Chychrun is over point per game as a defenseman, which is absurd. And I don't think I've ever seen that before. But if he continues on this pace, he's going to have an incredible year. This team must be just really good offensively right now. But yeah, let's take a look at our player stats and team stats so far for the season, just to see what's been going well for us and what hasn't been. But right now, I think everything looks like it's doing pretty well. Currently, we are the 5th best team in the entire NHL, only 2 points behind the top team, which is the Ottawa Senators. Goals for per game, we are one of the best offensive teams in the league, which is awesome to see with the amount of young guys we have in our lineup, scoring 3.76 goals per game. Goals against per game wise, we are not doing too good, so we could probably be a little bit better defensively. Yeah, we could be a little bit better defensively, but it is what it is. Power play percentage wise, our power play is one of the best in the league as well, which is not a surprise because our offense is so good. Penalty kill percentage needs to be improved drastically. Well, maybe not drastically. Let's just see where it is. It's around like bottom table. Yeah, it's not too good. So we might need to address that penalty kill. And yeah, our penalty kill is probably our main problem. So that's probably what we need to address. We're 8-1-1 in our last 10 as well, which is really nice to see. But basically, our defense is our main problem, which kind of sucks because we did bring in some good defensive options to help out our team, but obviously that hasn't been the case so far. Let's take a look at our player stats and see who's been doing what. So Farinacci, 25 points in 21 games. I think we need to give this guy his contract before the offseason, because or else he's going to be demanding a lot of money. 16 goals in 21 games. I might have made him too good, but he's developed just really well, it seems like. So you have Farinacci off to an incredible start this year. 14 points for Connor Geekie. That's pretty impressive. He's getting power play time, and he's also on the 4th line. So pretty impressive start for Connor Geekie. Hayton, 12 points in 18 games. That's pretty good. Boone Jenner, 9 points in 21 games. Only a -2. So a little bit better defensively than probably the other third liners would be. But I think we are playing a little bit better defensively than last year. And Ponomarev, 7 points and a -3 on that third line. Gustafsson's only played 3 games as a depth option, but he was not too bad. Left wing wise, Dylan Guenther is off to an incredible start, which is good. He is going to get some development that way. 18 points in 21 games. We're definitely going to need to give him a big contract, I think, this offseason as well. Probably not as big as Farinacci, but still pretty big. Agostino's been pretty solid so far, 16 points as well. So yeah, these three guys especially are going to need some big contracts. And then Philip Zadina, 12 points in 21 games is not really what I was expecting when I gave him a contract extension, because he is currently getting paid $9 million for 6 years. So if he continues to play like that, I don't know if we're going to have to keep him around long term, because that's pretty bad. That's almost like Clayton Keller level of stats. But hopefully he can improve upon that throughout the season and finish with 50, 60 points. Braden Tracy so far, 10 points in 21 games as a fourth liner. That's pretty impressive. And shooting 27.3%, I like that. Right wing wise, Calvin Shelley, my man, 18 points in 21 games. He's already got 14 goals. So him and Farinacci are scoring quite a bit of goals in their careers already. Shelley's just a pure shooter. And at this rate right now, he's probably on pace to hit 40 or 50 goals. And he's shooting 25% this year. So Calvin Shelley's having a big year in his second season. And yeah, next year when his contract comes to an end, we're going to have to give him an 8-year deal for sure regardless, because this guy is going to be a machine by the time his career is done. He's got 53 goals through 108 NHL games, which is pretty damn good. And he's up to an 84 as well, which is pretty good. Julian Gauthier, 10 points in 21 games is pretty solid. Armia's got 7 points in 21 games, which is not what I was expecting, but it's pretty damn good as a fourth liner. He's a +5. He's definitely helped us out defensively. And then defenseman, yeah, Chikrin's off to an incredible start. 28 points in 21 games. We only have him signed for another 5 years after this, but definitely worth it, I'd say. Connor Timmins has been solid so far, 9 points. Sam Marukov, 8 points. Soderstrom, 6 points in 16 games. He's been kind of off to a slow start, considering last year in the playoffs, I think he had 6 points in 7 games. And then Bonin, 4 points. Jokiharju, 4 points. And 3 points in 5 games as a depth option for J.J. Moser. It's not too bad. Goalie option-wise, our goaltending has kind of struggled from Elena Felton. He's getting majority of the starts, while Jack Campbell has been phenomenal. I don't know why Elena Felt's getting more starts, because they are the exact same overall. It could be because of their roles, which kind of sucks. But I don't know why we're starting Elena Felt more if he's been that terrible by comparison to Jack Campbell. At least he's got a winning record, so that's okay. Let me just take a quick look at the entire league just to see if we have any guys up there in terms of anything. So in terms of forwards for goals, yeah, currently Farinacci's tied for the league lead in goals. And then we also got Shelley up there, who's close to being up there in terms of scoring as well. So we might end up winning a Richard this year if our guys manage to pass those other guys. As for defensemen, Chikrin is leading the league in points for defensemen, which is good to see. And best goalie so far for wins is John Gibson. Interesting. Best rookie this year for points is Tubert in New Jersey. So that is that, and let's take a quick look at the draft class just to see what is out there. Not that it matters at this stage, but just in case. Okay, looks like a defensive heavy draft at the beginning. Not that it matters, because we're not going to have that high of a pick, at least at this rate. But yeah, that's pretty much the draft class. Let's take a quick look at the trading block just in case there's any trades we can make. I think we'll probably still not make any trades next episode. We might just wait till the deadline to make trades if so necessary, because I think our team right now is pretty much mint at this stage. But let's take a look at what's out there anyways, just to see if there's any options that could help us out. So there is a lot of veterans out there if we want to add somebody to our defensive core, because right now we're just using J.J. Moser's depth, but it seems like J.J. Moser could put up points, so he might not be a bad depth option to keep around. But there is also defensemen out there that we could bring in as depth options or even top 6 options, and then we could get rid of somebody else on our blue line, but I don't think I would want to do that. But yeah, there's some solid players out there for sure. Also good prospects, but obviously we're not going to be trading for prospects because we are trying to make the playoffs, and we're probably trying to contend soon, because obviously we're off to one of our best starts probably in franchise history, I would assume. Yeah, there's not really anything I would probably trade for on the block right now. unless we wanted to really, like I said, get a depth defenseman instead of JJ Moser, but I think JJ Moser is doing an okay job right now. It's just his injury is kind of a bit of a bummer because we don't have another depth defenseman except for Karate, who we could call up, really. So, but I will also take a quick look at the AHL stats because I just realized I wanted to take a look at our X Factor and Ortmeyer, and I will also take a look at how Lawrence is doing down there, because Lawrence could be honestly in the NHL lineup next season, which means there's going to be probably even more expendable players at some point on our roster. But yeah, there's definitely some defensive options out there if we really wanted to bring in another defenseman as a depth option, which would probably be the only thing I would probably look for. But let me take a quick look at the AHL stats. Let me go to edit lines, and then we'll go to the AHL, and I just want to take a look at some specific players. Lawrence is off to a pretty good start. He's 77. Carl Henriksen doesn't really matter that much. Schulz has been pretty good, 77 for him. We might eventually have to trade away some of these prospects because a lot of them are getting so close to the NHL level, like Varlamov even is getting really close. But yeah, that AHL team looks like they're pretty stacked in terms of points. Tukinen's up to an 80 overall as well, which is not what I really had in mind. So next offseason, we might have to make some moves with Yoki Haru and Bodine and all that stuff, since Schneider and Tukinen are both NHL ready. And Ariel Ortmeyer so far has not been great, but he is a 70 overall at this point. It's not too bad. And Wallstead so far has been pretty solid, and same with Prosvetov. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Arizona Coyotes franchise mode. So in next episode, we will simulate more. We'll probably simulate up to the trade deadline, and hopefully this team can continue off their hot start. So let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.